Welcome to this meeting of the Partnership Cabinet on Tuesday, the 30th of September 2025. My name is Simon Werner and I'll be chairing this meeting. This meeting is being held in person at York House, Windsor, and via Zoom, being streamed live to the public on YouTube. I remind all attendees in the meeting that participation indicates consent to the audio and video being streamed live, and acknowledgement that after the meeting it will continue to be available in the public domain. Firstly, as usual, it would be useful if all the Cabinet members could introduce themselves. As I said, I'm Simon Werner and I'm Leader of the Council.
Councillor Lynn Jones, Deputy Leader of the Council and Lead Member for Finance.
Councillor Mark Wilson, Lead Member for Corporate Services.
Councillor Jeff Hill, Lead Member for Highways and Transport and Customer Services.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Adam Berman, Cabinet Member for Planning, Governance and Asset Management.
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Jack Douglas, I'm Cabinet Member for Communities and Leisure.
Councillor Catherine Del Campo, Lead Member for Adult Services, Health and Housing.
Fantastic. And online we have Amy.
Hello, Councillor Amy Teasey, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Windsor.
Fantastic. Okay, for councillors and officers who have not introduced themselves, once I've invited you to speak, before you do so, please state your name and capacity in which you are speaking if appropriate. We haven't got any public speakers tonight registered for this evening's meeting. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all persons wishing to speak at tonight's meeting that all comments should please specifically be in relation to the agenda item and its published report. We'll now start on the agenda items. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Coe and Councillor Davies. And as you heard, Councillor Teasey is attending virtually, so cannot vote on any item.
Okay. Any declarations of interest? I have one. I'm a founder member of Wild Maidenhead. Adam.
Yeah, just also declare I'm a member of Wild Maidenhead.
Catherine.
Also a member of Wild Maidenhead.
You should say this relates to the local nature recovery strategy.
Yeah. Okay. Any other declarations of interest? No. Fantastic. Okay. Minutes of the last meeting. Is everyone okay for me to sign them?
Agreed.
That's great. Okay. For appointments, we're going to note the following reappointments for the next 4 years. Ravinder Singh Zandu, representative for Sikh in Group A on the Standing Advisory Council for Religious Education, or sometimes called SACRE. Okay, so forward plan. Owen.
Thank you, Chair. So a number of changes. So firstly, the advertising and sponsorship policy was originally scheduled for the 21st of October. It's now coming to the 25th of November. This is to allow further time for overview and scrutiny to consider the policy. The mobile home site licensing and fit and proper persons policy was scheduled for the 21st of October. It's coming to the 25th of November. This is due to key officers having been unavailable at the time of writing the report. The Desborough Park flood alleviation scheme was also coming to the 21st of October and is now coming to the 25th of November. And this is due to awaiting some further information to assist in writing the report. The Household Support Fund is a new item for 25th of November. Contract for nursing residential care home placements, new item for 25th November. The Microsoft licensing contract renewal, delegated authority to award, is a new item for 25th November. Update on demand for school places 2025, also a 25th November item. And the grounds maintenance contract, delegation of authority to award, is also a 25th November item. The Children's Services Capital Programme 26-27 is a new item for the 16th of December meeting. The month 4 and 5 budget monitoring report has been combined and will be at the 21st of October meeting. This is following a review of the budget setting timetable. And lastly, Imperial Road, Windsor is a new item for the 24th of March meeting.
Okay, Jack.
Thank you, Simon. I'm very excited about paddle coming to Windsor Leisure Centre. We really need to pull out all the stops to get this moving as quickly as possible. It will mean revenue for the borough. And of course, it's a popular, great fun activity for residents. And so I'm asking Andrew, the Executive Director of Place, to ensure this is prioritised with his team, so we can try and get it on the forward plan for October, if that's okay.
Fantastic. Can we add that to the forward plan, Owen? That's great. Okay, any other items? No? Okay, thank you very much. Right, so for the first item, we've got the financial improvement and sustainability update. We actually have Gavin Jones with us, who's going to talk to us about the report. He's the chair of our independent financial improvement and sustainability board, really expensive local government chief executive, and government appointed lead commissioner for Slough Borough Council and Thurrock. Gavin and the board have really provided a huge amount of invaluable challenge as we work through fixing the mess that we have inherited and delivering our vital recovery plan. Gavin.
Leader, thank you very much indeed, and good evening, members, and thanks again for inviting me to speak at your cabinet meeting. As you've outlined, I'm the independent chair and have been since late December last year, when the board was first set up at your own initiative, I have to say, following your SIPFA review and I believe a recommendation from Stephen, your chief executive cabinet, to establish it. For the benefit of a wider audience, the board's comprised of myself as independent chair, a serving chief exec in Anna Earnshaw, who had deep professional experience with adult services, and Barry Scarr, a very well respected former Section 151 officer as well. And of course, yourself, leader, and the deputy leader, and Stephen as chief exec as well. I'm also pleased to report we get very good attendance from Stephen's senior team, who attend all of the meetings and don't just attend, in fact, contribute significantly as well. So it feels, as an independent chair, and as you rightly say, leader, I've run quite a few of these things in different councils. The initial impression is a willingness and openness of the council to engage with its agenda. You know that you have a very, very tough financial position that you are tackling. And you know that you've also got some associated organisational issues that you're having to deal with as a legacy of past decisions. And it's very pleasing in the way that you and your colleagues have engaged with the board in a very transparent, open and challenging way. To be really blunt, if you didn't, I suspect we wouldn't be here anyway, because actually you've got to work with a council that wants to own its agenda. And it's very clear to myself and to the board that you do, even though, of course, it is very challenging. Again, for the benefit of a wider audience, we meet about every 6 weeks, but Barry, myself and I also, outside of the formal meetings, provide support and challenge to Stephen and the team as well. Although, of course, very conscious of cost to the council, we limit our time quite heavily so that we're not an undue financial burden on you as well. So, as I said, right from the outset, it was pretty clear that your council was seeking with a considerable determination to address the issues that faced with you. You're not running away from them, and you've demonstrated ownership of the agenda, the improvement agenda. But the challenges, as you rightly understand, are very, very significant for this council. Not just the obvious financial challenges and all of the various components. I'd probably draw your attention to para 15 in the report, particularly with some of the disadvantages that you're having to try to tackle as part of your recovery as well. But equally, for any council that's faced this level of challenge, transformation is key to your future, your ability not just to kind of bat off those financial challenges, but to build a realistic and implementable transformation plan that in essence allows you to cut away at the debt that you've incurred and to be able to have a more solid platform moving forward as well. So that's why we talk about how do you therefore build back organisational capability to be able to do that. You're a council that has applied and successfully applied for additional financial support from government, and you know, clearly it's important that you use an element of that funding to help fuel your transformation plan and not just simply use it for balancing your budget as well. I think it's worth pointing out that because it's your biggest spending department, there's been a lot of focus on adult services. Again, there are quite a lot of legacy issues, system issues and practice issues that need to be addressed. But again, the board have been very impressed by the ASC leadership team and their willingness to own that agenda and to take many decisions that they've already taken, actually, that's starting to address some of those demand-led issues. More work to be done, but pleasing to report the ownership by the senior team to deal with that as well. So it's your recovery is not just about how you deal through organizational transformation of your financial challenges, but as you know, leader, there are some tough political choices that you've had to make and probably will have to make moving forward as well. And I think the board's view of that is, again, you haven't shied away from that to date. I think the important thing for the board is how do you bring your residents along with you? I think you communicate well with your residents, but that's something that I suspect it'll be important for you to continue to do so that the residents understand the context and the improvement of the journey that you're on as well. And I think the other point that I would observe is that for any organisations that do find themselves in this kind of trouble, it is not uncommon for them to become very insular and disconnected from the broader family. But again, I think it's pleasing to see that we don't see that in the case of the Royal Borough. And particularly, I would highlight your work on the devolution agenda, how you're working very constructively with your neighbours and partners. And I think as an independent chair, I would encourage you to continue that work. I think it's a good example of your broader systems leadership in that as well. So, leader, if you're content, I wasn't necessarily going to go into any more detail on the report because that's as tabled and that's available to members as well. But I look forward to continuing to work with your council on a recovery journey and to provide, if you will it, further progress reports to your cabinet as well. Thank you, leader.
Thank you, Gavin. I think you're happy to take questions. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay, have we got any questions? Lynn.
Hi, Gavin.
Hello,
Just-
Lynn.
Just something that you were saying about the progress. I mean, we were a new administration and we did inherit a very challenging situation. Given that challenge and what I consider, and I think it's been acknowledged, the under-resourced officer corps, is the pace of progress what you would expect to see? Or, you know, is it enough, do you think, or do we need to push further?
So that's definitely, leader. That's a great question. I mean, I think we'd all probably say it's never enough, is it? Because we want to be able to recover as quickly as possible. Do I think that you've got the balance right up until now? Yes, I think that would be the view of the board. I think we've been impressed by, again, the ownership and the willingness to implement. I think the next 12 months will be particularly important for you as you form your thinking around your transformation agenda in more detail and start to drive the implementation of that. But the risk for you, as I know you're full aware, is have you got the right corporate capacity and capability to deliver that, or is that a constraint? And I suspect that will always be a challenge for you. At the moment, I think we are confident that you're addressing it in the right way, but I think you will need to build some more corporate capability to be able to drive that.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Gavin. So in your experience, you've worked with some pretty even more challenged authorities than us, you know, Slough and Thurrock, I think I mentioned before. What do you think are the strengths that the Royal Borough has that will be really important to getting out of the mess? And what do you think is its biggest weakness?
Wow, these are challenging questions. So the strengths is definitely, first of all, your willingness, both politically and at senior officer level, to ask for help, to receive support and challenge, and then to own the agenda. You don't run away from it. And I think that's an inherent strength. What we observe as a board is a very constructive relationship between members and senior officers. I think that's really, really, really key. I think the challenge, if I may, politically, is that as politicians, you're trying to recover a very damaged council, but the needs of your residents tend to be quite immediate as well. So it's getting that right balance between, it can't all be about long-term recovery because there are here and now issues that you need to address. But by the same token, you can't ignore the broader strategic piece that you need to own as well. So I see no sign of you not doing that yet, but I think that's one of the challenges for you. Your biggest issue, I think, I would call it a weakness. You are a small council with a huge financial liability. And I think for any small organisation to build the capacity for change at pace is really challenging. And you know, my considerable experience with working at councils in trouble, it takes a toll both on members and officers because it's very intensive work. And as long as you can maintain the relationship that I observe at the moment with your officers, I think that puts you in the strongest position that you could be in.
Thank you, Gavin. That's really useful. Any other questions? Mark.
Thanks very much, Simon. Just, I guess, a sort of a comment and a bit of a question. I think for me, it's very valuable reassurance from very experienced senior local government professionals that that we're on the right track, that our assessment and our plan is the right way to be moving forwards, and that it's an endorsement of that. I guess I would be interested to sort of Gavin, to ask you kind of what do you see as the council's top 3 challenges that we should be focusing on over the next kind of like 1 to 2 years. So the main things, the things that have the biggest impact potentially for the current and the next budget cycle.
So through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. So am I going to keep it just to 3? I'll do my best. And priorities will change, of course. I've already hinted about you really need sort of to develop further your whole council transformation programme, because the reality of being a small council with big financial issues is that your new operating model will have to operate at a lower cost to be able to get to the position of paying off your debt over a longer period of term as well. So I would absolutely point to that as one of your key priorities that we hope to work with you on. I would also say, and I put it in the report actually, some of your workforce-based issues. These are really knotty issues where in many cases you've not kept up to speed on some pay and grading type issues, for example. And you won't make this journey unless you're able to retain and keep the key staff that you need to be able to do it. It's a very thorny issue that you're going to have to deal with, but I think it's one that you can't ignore as well. And then lastly, really, it's particularly those demand-led pressure services. So we've talked about adult social care. Many authorities in and around London are really struggling with temporary accommodation and homelessness as well. And they have the capacity to do big damage to budget. So I would say particularly, again, focusing on that and keeping on top of it.
Yes, Mark, you want to come back?
And thank you very much. That's very useful. Just a follow-up thought, I guess, to that latter point about the potential role of prevention, because like personally I see that as quite important, but it obviously has a longer term impact. We would be spending now to get benefits potentially down the line. Would you see prevention as a key part of that?
Oh, I think prevention is absolutely essential. I don't believe there's any local authority in the country that shouldn't have that pretty high up in their agenda. There are some earlier paybacks you can get through the prevention agenda, but you're also right. There are longer term paybacks as well. And of course, it is vital that you take a medium term view, not just an in view every time as well. Because again, my last point really, Leader, is you can't rely on EFS each year to resolve some of your budget issues. You've got to be able to pay that debt off over a period of time.
Thank you very much. That's all really useful. And any other questions? Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I think, obviously the FISB and your board are really important at the moment in terms of having the right governance structures in place to deal with the acute financial challenge that the council faces. But I wanted to look maybe slightly more long term and how you might view the governance arrangements moving forward, moving out of this kind of acute phase, as it were, to a more kind of sustainable long-term position. Are there particular recommendations or, that you might want to give to us in terms of the post-FISB era if that's not too optimistic.
Well, it's very important to have optimism and hope in all of these things. So I don't, I support you in that. Really, the way I would answer that, I mean, we might need to address that in future reports. I think you own your recovery agenda, and in a sense, the power, I think, is in your hands. It would be different if you were a council that was in denial, or indeed that you didn't have the strengths of leadership to address the issues that you have. I think, you could even be talking about a higher form of work to independently to help you. But I think because you are demonstrating strong leadership, you are clear about the issues that need to be addressed and are welcoming support. I would say that the power is in your hands to determine when you think actually you have enough knowledge in your organization and you're well connected within the broader sector to make those connections. So because the sector is full of good learning that you can benefit from. But I think we would have a shared agenda. It's a win for all of us if you don't need this financial support and improvement board in the future. That's a common goal for us, that you're confident and able to stand on your own 2 feet in that sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Gavin. It's really good to. Oh, thank you very much, Gavin. It's really good to see you again. I'm sure we've got a meeting coming up. So, have you got any final comments you'd like to leave us with? Or
well, the final comment is we're meeting tomorrow, Simon, because
it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. I'm just checking in that I have got the right date. We're meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Look, the final comment I will say is you're on a long, very tough journey. I think you started well in terms of your ownership and determination to open it and the transparency in which you work with your board as well. But do think about the impact on yourselves as yourself as you go through that journey, because it is, believe you me, I have a lot of experience now. It takes its toll. That would be the final advice I'd give to you, leader.
Thank you. I will make sure that we look after ourselves. Thank you for the advice. Okay, I've got Councillor Sharp actually wants to ask a question. Julian.
Thank you, Simon. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you. I think, Gavin, thank you for that. You touched on some of these things, but I'm interested in the sort of medium term moving forward and what the situation looks like over the next few years, because I can see a situation where actually the debts are still building up with the EFS. So I'd like to understand what's specific, how we can get to a situation where the debt is actually falling and when it's not becoming a systemic problem for the council as we move forward. Because I can see that in a couple of years' time, if we're not in a situation where debt is being paid off, that we're actually in a worse situation then than we are now. So it's a very difficult one. It's part of the tricky journey that you were talking about.
So, I mean, there's no silver bullet in a sense in answer to your question. So first of all, you're absolutely right to raise the issue that additional financial support is effectively a loan that you have to pay off over a period of time. And a mindset where you're reliant on EFS to balance your budget is the wrong mindset, quite definitely. We're happy to explore this further in further work of the board, actually, if it's helpful to you. But I point to the transformation agenda. So you've done some work or doing some work about your new operating model. I don't want to get too technical at this public meeting, but basically all of the councils I work with that find themselves in a similar position have to quite radically rethink how are they operating, how can they reduce their operating costs through the exploitation of technology, obviously, through service redesign. And you do have mileage to do that as well. I think if you read in the report, you received a report on how, particularly in adult social care, you could drive a lot of cost out over a period of time as well. The best advice I can give you is to pursue those strategies. There are some political challenges in there for you as well about choices that you make. And that's why I emphasised a point about how it's so important that you communicate well with your residents, because they need to understand some of the decisions you might have to make and why you're making them as well. But that I can't give you an absolute tangible do this, and do that. But we talked a little bit about just a few moments ago, particularly with your demand-led services. And you know that every council is struggling with adult social care to a degree, with children's services as well. The more you can focus on moving upstream to a prevention or early intervention agenda, and in many councils that have done this extremely well, you're going to get your operating costs down considerably, and that's where you need to be focused a lot of your effort.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Thank you for coming to this meeting. I think it's been really informative for both all the Cabinet and also the many listeners I'm sure we've got watching the broadcast. So, Cabinet, Lynn.
Yeah, can I just come in on that last comment that Gavin made? Gavin, in the report, paragraph 15, you address several issues, as you said before. Yeah. And one of those is that our level of council tax is one of the lowest in the country and significantly lower than any reasonable benchmark. Given that that is equal to a 30 million gap in our income, how do you see I believe that transformation alone can't fill that gap. So how do you see that working in the medium term with our debt?
So this talks to some of the very tough political choices that you're going to have to make, not just over priorities of services. Council tax is one that officers always feel uncomfortable talking to members about, because it's in your determination to levy council tax. And, you have already successfully applied to government for a temporary lift on the cap for last year's, I think it was last year, wasn't it, council tax. It's difficult to imagine how that wouldn't feature as part of your thinking moving forward, to be blunt, because for exactly the reasons you've just described. It's such a significant contribution to your revenue. My advice to you around that is, of course, you'd have to appeal to the Secretary of State again if you'd wanted to go above the cap. My experience of working with the civil service and the department is that the more confidence that they have in you, in terms of you doing all of the things that you could possibly do within yourself, the stronger position that puts you in to get broader support from government. I'll leave it as vague as that, if I may, Lynn, but I can't speak for government, obviously, because I'm not directly employed by government, but obviously I do talk to civil servants about your council, and to date, you've made a very good impression because of your ownership as the agenda and not hiding anything, determination. Best advice I can give you is to keep their confidence up in you. It puts you in a stronger negotiating position if you need additional support from government in whatever shape that features.
Thank you very much, Gavin. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming to this meeting. Really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure, Leader. Thank you.
Cabinet, are we okay to approve the paper?
Agreed.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on. Another finance paper, month 3 budget monitoring report. Gavin, you're more than happy for you to stay for the rest of the meeting. Lynn.
Thank you, Jeff.
Lynn.
Thank you. Okay, this report sets out a forecast position for the end of the year based on actuals and trends up to month 3, which is the end of June. We've heard that we're actually going to bring 4 and 5 forward at the next cabinet. That gives us a much better idea, much more up-to-date reporting within the cabinet. You can see that that given the information at month 3, the directorates are forecasting a draw on the centrally held contingency of approximately 3.6 million, and are seeing an increase in demand-led services such as children's social care placements and temporary accommodation. There are also costs associated with the property portfolio. However, I'm expecting to see a reduction in some of these forecasts as the finance partners and the heads of department continue to review them and as initiatives we have put in place come to fruition. Although there is also a risk of a demand cost outstripping the trend analysis we use when we set the budget. So those demand-led services are key. Figure 1 on page 7 shows the increase of the average weekly cost of adult social care packages. This follows our investment into the Mosaic system, giving us the insight we needed to understand adult social care's complicated costs and plan for them. The demand and cost of placements are behind the increase in children's care, remaining the most volatile area within that department, along with agency spend. With the deficit for dedicated schools grant forecast to increase to 8.887 million, this remains a risk to the general fund should the statutory override not be renewed. And looking at the Place Directorate, table 7, alongside the known risk around property costs on the risk register, we have now included a forecast overspend for temporary accommodation. Now, this is based on improved modelling, but looking at the graph, the forecast trend appears to have now deviated positively from what we have seen previously. And given the work ongoing, it is possible that this overspend will be reduced in the future, but it's too soon to say at the moment. Again, there has been a push for more detailed monitoring to further understand the drivers of our parking income. And we can see that we have a small budget pressure. The graphs on pages 13 and 14 indicate that the income is broadly on budget. In my own area of resource, the overspend is due to the interim finance roles as we look to permanently recruit, and costs have increased for democratic services. The savings tracker at table 3 identifies the savings targets, delivery and risk to the delivery. There has been some reprofiling of savings, anticipating a higher level of savings, but on a longer timescale. And this is reflected in the amber ratings. Debt, the overdue sundry debt is shown at figure 4 on page 16. The corporate ledger debt at month 3 stands at 10.925 million, but there has been a provision of 5.5 million held against that debt. Following the investment into officers' posts to address the debt and added focus, we are seeing results that are having a real impact on our long-term debt, recently reducing it by over 900,000. The team are looking to review all cases over £5,000 by the end of October. With regard to capital, there is one capital spend of 94,000 to be approved. With regard to our ability to take payment by card as detailed at paragraph 11.3. Council tax and business rate collection is just ahead of forecast. So with the rest of the report, Appendix A details the full revenue budget, including the non-service budgets. Appendix B details the capital budget, including any slippage. Appendix C details the budget risks that may impact on this year's budget. Appendix D are the budget requirements, transferring amounts to the correct cost departments without any impact on our general fund. Appendix E is the 24-25 Treasury Management Outturn report that has already gone to Audit and Governance Committee and has been debated there. So I am asking you to note the report and approve the budget requirements, Appendix D, as per the recommendations as detailed in paragraph 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Has anyone got any questions or comments? Mark.
Thanks very much, Simon. Just like to come in and pick up a point on the parking. Obviously, within the month 3 budget monitoring, we've taken a fairly prudent approach to the forecast. But I would like to take this opportunity to remind Cabinet, residents and businesses that in fact tomorrow we're introducing our new seasonal parking discount initiative. Under this special offer, we're offering a 25% reduction in medium length stays, that is between 2 and 5 hours, in 3 central car parks to Windsor and Eton, Alexandra Gardens, King Edward VII and Meadow Lane car parks. And as an example of that price reduction, a 4-hour stay in Alexandra car park will be £7.50 instead of £10. This is in response to feedback, as I say, from businesses in particular, and is designed to encourage people to stay longer in these central car parks. They're ideal for both residents and visitors to use when visiting the town, for both leisure and obviously retail. And the discount applies for the 5 quietest months of the year, which is October, November, January, February and March. We know these off-peak months are historically more challenging for businesses, so this is an opportunity to encourage visitors and residents to come and enjoy all that Windsor and Eton has to offer. And certainly, we hope this brings a boost to the local economy.
Fantastic. Cheaper parking in Windsor. Great for everybody. Anyone else? Any comments? No. We have Councillor Sharp.
You're muted, Councillor Sharp.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just concerned that the plans that you've got are still reliant on savings. And for example, in adult social care, you're predicting £5 to £7 million worth of savings in adult social care. And I'd just like to understand how likely that is to be achieved, because it's a substantial number in your figures.
Yeah, thank you, Julia.
I think the 5 to 7 is over a period of time. The savings target in adult social care and health for 25-26 is shown in table 3, which the savings forecast is 879,000. At the moment, we have 303,000 on track. Amber 576, which is what I was detailing earlier about. We're going to make more savings, but it may be over a greater time period. And in adult social care, I don't think we have any off track at the moment. So yes, it is a high ask again, but it's transformation. We have had that. We had a expert diagnostics to come in, and they believe that is a reasonable amount of savings to make, and we will continue to monitor them. I think our savings tracker that we've put in is far above anything that's been seen before, and it has given a real focus to our savings, and we will continue to monitor them and continue to deliver as adult social care is delivering in 25-26. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, I've been really impressed how the savings tracker has really shown that we're keeping to our savings targets. To have none in the red category is quite an achievement this early in the year. So really well done to adult services and the rest of the team. I have Amy.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I wasn't able to unmute myself. No, I just wanted to pick up just on what Councillor Sharp said in terms of children's services as well, because out of the sort of 2.975 million savings target in children's, actually 2.856 million is on track or complete, and there is, an amount, but a much smaller amount that's just at risk of not being delivered, and that's an amber risk through the Family Hub savings. So the great majority of savings in children have been delivered already.
That's fantastic, Amy. I mean, it shows our laser focus across the council in meeting the savings tracker and the transformation that we're aiming at. So really well done. Any other speakers? I've got Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I just wanted to point out two things which may be easily overlooked. And it's, I think it's really good and in the interest of transparency that we have the Treasury Management Outrun report before us. I know it notes within that report that it sort of lapsed in terms of the regularity that it had been coming to relevant committees in previous periods. So it's great that it's there and it's transparent. It shows exactly how we performed from a Treasury point of view and where improvements are needed. It discusses those as well. So that's really important. The other thing, it may sound a bit odd, but I'm pleased to see. Well, I'm not pleased to see the overspend in property, but I'm pleased to see that when a triggering event has occurred, which in this case was related to our property Sienna Court, which is near the Nicholson's scheme site, when circumstances changed, which meant that some costs which were correctly in the past capitalised could no longer be held as capitalised, they were released to the revenue account. It shows that systems are really improving in terms of the financial records and understanding where things are. And it's good to see this, and I think it gives a lot of confidence that that moving forward, some of those issues that arose in the past are now the improvements are now embedded within the team. So from a governance point of view, whilst of course don't like to see a budget pressure and property services within my portfolio, I do recognise the importance of picking that up and it becoming part of our account. So thank you for that, keeping on top of it.
Thank you. I think you're right. I think a lot of the stuff to do with the property company was opaque to everybody. And one of the things about getting rid of the property company is obviously we can make sure that everything is kept as transparent as possible. And when there's an overspend, it's captured and put through a proper governance process. So well done for getting rid of the property company, Adam. Okay, any other questions or comments? No, can we agree that paper?
Agreed.
Agree.
That's great. Thank you very much. Right, we now have quality assurance report. We have Mark.
Great, thank you, Simon. So this report is the first update following the annual refresh of the council plan, which we adopted in April this year. And just a reminder, it provides a comprehensive overview of council performance, risk, audit and transformation activity for the first quarter. That's April to June this year. There have been some changes to the report format to further improve readability. The successes and challenges are now included in the executive summary, grouped by directorates, with links to the respective detailed narratives further in the report. Where appropriate, links to associated risks and audits and deliverables and transformation projects have also been included in the commentary section to try and bring together a holistic view of performance across the various streams of work that is progressing in the council. The report also includes progress updates for both deliverables and KPIs, and this is a change to last year where KPI progress was reported quarterly and deliverables were only reported every 6 months. So this change is to enhance transparency and ensures that if any dates have been adjusted, that we pick up where deliverables have been updated, and that aligns with best practice of basically reporting the same set of data and deliverables every quarter. So there's a lot of consistency. So turning to this quarter's report, performance remains strong across the board, with 81% of KPIs rated green or amber and 72% of deliverables completed or on track. This reflects sustained delivery across directorates, despite our ongoing financial and capacity pressures. Notable successes include the launch of the Living Well Together transformation programme in adult social care, strong performance in children's services with EHCP timeliness and placement stability for children in care with more than 3 placements. We've also seen good progress in the Place Directorate, including bringing property services back in-house, as we've just discussed, and also on leisure centre attendance. And in resources, the finance transformation programme is progressing very well, and customer service metrics, council tax and business collection rates are all strong. Turning to risks, the overall risk assessment is broadly stable. Financial risk obviously continues to be rated at the highest level. The social care demographics strategic risk has slightly reduced due to progress on mitigations, and 3 operational risks, being children with complex needs, disadvantaged children's education, and joint early planning, have seen reduced ratings following targeted interventions in education and plans to deliver supported accommodation units. In terms of internal audit, it continues to focus on the priority areas, and follow-ups have been completed for business continuity, contract management, and premises health and safety. 2 new priority 1 audits have been added, being Optalis governance and the oversight of temporary accommodation. Further transformation programs are progressing well, with 28 out of 31 active projects rated green or amber. Highlights include the rollout of Magic Notes, which is an artificial intelligence tool for social care in terms of minute taking. The finance transformation program is continuing, and also the adult social care living well transformation program continues. Obviously, challenges remain. Council's financial position is the main one. We've also the challenge around the shared lives placement is kind of coming to a conclusion as we're progressing that through alternative ways. Also, some challenges on occupational therapy waiting times, foster placement sufficiency, although we continue to target and try and attract more foster parents and families. And then temporary accommodation, as we talked about, is clearly a challenge. They're all being actively monitored through our risk registers, and we continue to work on mitigations. So happy to take further questions, pass on to other to colleagues for further comments.
Thank you very much. That's great. Have we got any comments, Catherine?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mark, for your update. Just picking up some of those points that you mentioned. So Magic Notes, I've had a demo of this technology. It is actually rather good. It is leveraging the latest AI technology in a good, positive way, I think, helping social workers to write up assessments faster and more accurately. At the time of writing this report, 54% of staff had started using it in earnest, and I'm sure that figure has increased since then. There are economies of scale as we purchase more licenses, so actually there is an opportunity to explore the use of the technology in other areas of the council as well. Shared lives was a historic savings goal that we inherited from the previous administration. We've tried really hard to make this work, but the decision has now been made to refocus efforts on the Living Well scheme, which aims to improve reablement, hospital discharge processes, and embed progressive practice in alignment with the recommendations of the Care Quality Commission after our inspection. So that doesn't mean we won't purchase spot shared lives placements on a case-by-case basis. You know, it remains our intention to provide people with the most appropriate care for their needs. Mosaic implementation proceeds apace, with the citizen portal going live and successfully automating 11 social care contacts and 9 safeguarding concerns in its first week. So that was a really good start. The provider portal has now been tested successfully. So we're now rolling out training to providers on the portal in the coming weeks. And all this means that the team will soon be in a position to speed up the collection of client contributions. And I hope we'll be able to provide an update on that in the next coming meetings. Mosaic's also continuing to prove its worth in terms of the insights it's giving us with respect to better data, focused management action, and better budgeting for forecasting. In housing, we've mentioned temporary accommodation. It is pleasing to see that the figures have levelled out over the last few months, hovering around the 320, 325 mark. I'm hoping to have a fuller update with the next quarterly report with some data on how our increased efforts on prevention will have affected the figures. But nonetheless, it's a reassuring trend that I'm happy to see. Obviously, our ambitious housing transformation programme will be instrumental in bringing those figures down over the coming weeks, months and years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I've got Amy.
Thank you. Struggling there with the unmute button again. I'm really pleased to see, as Councillor Wilson mentioned, the 100% EHCP completion within the 20-week target is still being maintained. That's just directly reflecting some investment in staff capacity there to make that happen. That's reassuring for families that those reports are being done on time. Also in education, 2 schools that were previously inspected as requires improvement by Ofsted have now been and are rated higher. Obviously, the single word judgments have gone, but we know that they've rated higher than they did previously, so that's really good news. And as far as children in care, the placement stability for our children in care is a real good news story. You know, our children, only 5.7% of our children had three or more placements. It's very disruptive for children to be moved too much, and that's come down from 17%, and it's better than the national average. And that's just showing the stability in the workforce, working with the carers to make sure the children have the consistency. Areas that we need to look at and keep a close eye on are school absence rates for some of our more vulnerable children, children in care, children in need, and children on child protection plans. They have tracked a little bit higher than we would expect, higher than our own targets and national averages. But there is action in place to tackle this. So there's a borough-wide attendance strategy, attendance boards, deep dive reviews. We've got social worker clinics to offer the targeted support. Our virtual school, which is the sort of umbrella school that looks after all of these young people and children and young people, as a sort of parent school that sits over the top of their educational settings. Is really working hard to make sure that we're tracking the reasons and supporting these children to be in school. And we have an excellent scheme called the Attachment Aware Schools Award in the borough. Many schools now run this scheme, and that helps us to understand reasons why children and young people may behave and have certain attitudes and behaviours, and come at them from a much more attachment aware place of understanding. So it's now really key we just get all this on top of this and make sure we see the downward trend with that. Foster carers, we've seen a small increase in children in care placed more than 20 miles from home, but I would just caveat that with some of those are actually where children have been reunited with their families and have moved back home, but a care order remains. So actually that can actually be a positive placement 20 miles from home. So it's not necessarily a negative thing. So yeah, we continue to see a need to recruit foster carers, of course, and I will repeat my annual or my monthly plug. If anybody is interested in becoming a foster carer, please have a look at the council website at AFC information, and there's a fantastic offer and we really need you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Amy. That's fantastic. Any other comments, Jeff?
Yeah, I thought I'd put something in the mix. Just a bit of a shout out for the customer services team, because they, I know they get recognition, but I think it's time to give them a little bit more. They've been persistently hitting their targets for months, and if we look down at customer services line, their target for this period for call answering is 80% within 2 minutes. They've in fact hit 96, which is exceptionally good because they've had some absences and gaps in staffing, and the year to date is 93.9% on a target of 80%, which is actually quite excellent. In terms of abandonment rate, which is an important metric in a call centre, the period actually is 1.6% of calls against abandonment rate target of 4%, and their year-to-date target is 5% against 4%, which again is very good. So we are servicing our customers, which is the public, extremely well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. If that's all, Jack.
Thank you very much. Just one thing on the attendance at the leisure centre. So sharp-eyed readers may have noticed the huge increase in leisure centre attendance in the report, but also that the way that we measure attendance has changed. And the report doesn't say how much of the top line increase is real. But officers have got more information for me since it was published, so I can share that now. About 1/5 of the published increase is due to improved measuring, and the remainder, 4/5 of the increase, is the real change, still massively above target. Officers are looking to tweak the target to compensate for the improved measuring, so we're doing like for like. It's probably worth adding that the enormous increase in use has brought additional challenges. I raised issues around cleanliness at Windsor Leisure Centre with the Chief Executive of Leisure Focus this afternoon, and we discussed options for improvements. They are victims of their own success to a degree, and there is also a massive energy project going on at the site right now. But they do have to do better, and our challenge is to ensure that happens.
That's great, Jack. Fantastic. Okay, can we agree that paper?
Agreed.
That's agreed. Excellent. Okay, so now Berkshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy. I'm actually really excited to get the opportunity to present this paper. It's a really strong piece of work that I know our lead member, Karen Davis, has been focused on over the last year or so with her fantastic team of officers. This strategy sets out a transformative vision for reconnect habitats, revitalise rivers and wetlands, and enhance green spaces for both people and wildlife across the whole of Berkshire. The Royal Borough was made the responsible authority for this Berkshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy back in 2023, and so we've been working on it with support of other Berkshire authorities, and the work was financed by the government. The strategy brings together evidence on Berkshire's natural assets and identifies priority areas for action, ensuring investment and effort go where they will make the greatest difference. It pinpoints where actions will deliver greatest benefit, from planting hedgerows, wildflower meadows, to restoring floodplains and improving urban green corridors. The strategy will guide how developers meet biodiversity net gain duties, help farmers access funds for nature-friendly practices, and encourage local projects that tackle climate change and boost biodiversity. This strategy is our shared plan to bring nature back, practical, collaborative, and focused on the places where action counts most, getting the most bang for our bucks, as they would say. Thank you to everyone who has helped shape it so far. We're committed to continue working with partners and communities to secure long-term benefits for wildlife and residents across Berkshire. It follows extensive engagement with landowners, farmers, conservation groups and residents, and included a consultation earlier this year, which I know many of the Cabinet colleagues took part in. It includes a local habitats map to guide delivery and will help partners target funding, coordinate projects, and monitor progress over time. And a real collaboratively developed list of locally important species with specific actions to increase their population. It's a great piece of work. You could spend hours reading it. It's really worth it. I really commend it to everybody here. Any comments or questions from the Cabinet? No? Oh, Catherine.
Yeah, just very quickly. Obviously, you presented that very well, Chair, but disappointed for Councillor Davies, obviously, that she couldn't be here to see the fruition of her work on this. And I just want to thank her for her leadership, because it is really an impressive piece of work. So, yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, really is. Adam.
Yeah, obviously echo what Catherine just said. That Catherine's been doing some amazing work, with the sustainability team as well on this, and I think it's it's to their great credit that they were able to take the mantle as the responsible authority for the Berkshire plan. Leading the way. We've got a really fantastic team of really knowledgeable officers there, and also led by a brilliant lead member as well. And I think it's brilliant that we have been able to lead in that way. I think it's also worth noting that it's great to hear as part of the the consultation that they set up special working groups specifically talking to landowners and particularly farmers. And I think that is great and really important that for this to succeed, that we're talking to the right people. And farmers have a great deal of knowledge, and they also have a great deal of interest in the responsible stewardship of the land. So it's good to bring them along with us on the journey. I guess the final thing to really say is we in Berkshire are very serious about these targets, about hitting 30% by 2030. I really hope and appeal to central government that they'll be equally as serious about it when it comes to actually providing the funding to make it a reality. They're obviously very focused on development and build baby build, but we need to build for nature as well, and the two can go hand in hand. So I hope they do take it as seriously as we are. Thank you.
Hear, hear, Adam, hear, hear. I think also following on one of the comments Gavin made about showing leadership outside just the borough, despite our financial situation, I think it is a really good example of us being sort of thinking outside our borders and really taking a lead on something. So, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Just very, very pleased to see the water quality, water pollution get coverage in here. Obviously, the EA are primarily responsible for monitoring the quality of the water, in the River Thames. But this is something of a bit of a personal campaign and interest for me, of being an open water swimmer. So very pleased to see that is in there, and that those measures are being looked at.
Okay, so if that's all the comments from the Cabinet, can we approve this amazing paper from Karen?
Agreed.
Great, fantastic. Okay, now moving on, Flexible Home Improvement Loans Limited, the future of the company. Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. So this is, I suppose you could say this is another stone we've uncovered, but a nice, medium-sized pebble, not a rock. And it's not a massive can of worms. I want to point that out. There's no question about sort of financial irregularity or anything like that. But this is something that places an unnecessary burden on our officers' time when they could be focusing on our key priorities, such as preventing homelessness and so on. So historically, we and other boroughs received a reasonably sized pot of funding from the government to offer home improvement loans to the over 60s. And the fund maintains itself through interest payments and or charges on estates. And ultimately, it's a good thing. It helps our older residents live a better quality of life, and it assists with our prevention agenda, keeping people independent, living at home for longer. RBWM has historically managed this fund on behalf of several other boroughs. I think it was 17 to start with. It's now gone down to 12. And although we were able to recoup direct costs, like I said, it takes up other officers' time, and these incidental costs have traditionally not been recouped. Therefore, there is a net cost to the borough. The officer running the fund retired in April 24, and the opportunity was taken at that time to review its operation. And at the same time, due to the uncertainty about future running of the fund, the decision was made to freeze the issuing of loans for the time being. Since June of this year, we've had an interim part-time executive in post who's managing the fund and who would oversee the handover process if we agree this paper. But we're not currently in a position to restart the loans. So for the benefit of residents, we need to get this closed off as quickly as possible. The proposal, therefore, is to commission a specialist third-party provider who does this day in, day out, to run the fund on behalf of those authorities wishing to stay in the scheme. And once that provider has been commissioned, the company will be wound down and the assets transferred with suitable safeguards in place. Operational costs on an ongoing basis will be paid from interest payments to the fund itself. So there shouldn't be a negative revenue impact to the borough. So important things to note: we can't do anything else with this money. We can't withdraw it. We can't use it for other purposes, and there's no appetite amongst other member boroughs to run the fund or to run their own share of the pot. So this seems a sensible, pragmatic way forward for everyone. Once we can, I'm repeating myself. I'll skip that bit. The ask is that we agree to form a consortium of local authority members, which collectively retains control over the loan scheme funds. We procure an FCA regulated provider to undertake loan administration services for the consortium, and we wind down the loan company once the net assets have been transferred. Also, that we delegate to the Assistant Director for Housing and Public Protection the oversight of the associated work streams required to implement these recommendations, and the authority to agree any binding contracts on behalf of RBWM. I hope you can support this paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Really interesting. It sounds like it's another mess we're having to fix. Is that true?
Yeah, a little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting used to fixing messes, aren't we? Any other comments from anybody? No? Okay. Can we carry on fixing this mess? Everyone agreed?
Agreed.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
What have we got next? It's outdoor advertising, bus stops, streets and car parks. Jeff.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman or Leader. It's deja vu. I did this before. So I did the original contract, or probably not the original one, but one about 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, 15 years ago, probably. It's very simple stuff. The contract comes to an end November 25, so this year. Just seeking permission to approve and award a new contract from a tendering process that we'd like to start immediately. We're looking to commence a new contract in January 2026. It's for buses, car parks, and maybe street furniture throughout the borough. It's in 2 lots. There's one lot covering Maidenhead, which is quite small, that we may get a digital bid for. And there's another lot for the wider borough. So the money will be used initially to maintain our bus stops and maybe do a few upgrades if there's enough. So that will help there. And then obviously, if we've got any spare cash, we might let Lynn have some to help pay down some of the debt. I don't think we'll get that vast volumes of money, but it's all good stuff, using the public space for advertising. And as I say, I've done it before. It worked very well before, and I'm sure we'll do it again and make a nice surplus. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Jeff. Always good to make more income and to get some of the street furniture repaired as well. That's fantastic. Any questions or comments? No, everyone happy? Excellent. Right, a council approach to Heathrow. Now, this would have been reported by Richard Coe, Cabinet Member for Household and Regulatory Services. Sadly, he's not here today. So, Mark, I think you're going to take it, aren't you? So we got Mark from Gookham to speak as well. So it's the 2 Mark show. Who wants to go first?
I'll kick off if that's all right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. So as many people have seen, the government are supporting the expansion of Heathrow and have invited proposals to come forwards. The council is on principle opposed to the expansion, but given the decision is out of our hands, we do need a clear policy so that members and officers understand the official position and can communicate on that basis when in discussions with third parties. These discussions are critical to ensure residents are represented as things move forward. Along with neighbouring boroughs, we don't have the spare resource available to mount legal challenges against expansion individually. However, we are collaborating with other boroughs via the Heathrow Strategic Planning Group and working together to minimise negative impacts and maximise benefits for local communities. So having accepted that some expansion will take place, we've created 3 critical priority areas to focus on in discussions. Firstly, better controlling night flights so that residents get a good night's sleep. And in practice, we're asking for an enforced restriction of flights between 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. Secondly, we're looking for tangible local environmental benefits, effectively a cleaner, greener airport. The airport as a whole clearly creates a lot of pollution both in the air and on the ground, and we want the airport to take responsibility for delivering benefits within the airport and around. We also want to make sure that any offsetting activity is undertaken locally and not in another part of the country, and is also beneficial to local residents. Thirdly, we want a fair deal for local communities. We've seen very limited economic benefits locally to date from previous work to Heathrow. We also call for an independent ombudsman to ensure that surrounding boroughs to Heathrow, including RBWM, do get those benefits. So I think overall, obviously, there are benefits to having a major international airport nearby in terms of driving economic growth and for convenience when travelling. However, we do need the airport to work harder to mitigate against the three key issues we've identified. So we're asking them to put people ahead of profits and to restore a good night's sleep, to improve the environmental credentials, and to share the economic benefits more within our communities. So pleased to recommend to Cabinet that we note the report and approve the proposed priority areas while reconfirming our opposition in principle.
Thank you very much, Mark Wilson. Mark Howard.
Thank you. I can't really add too much to Mark Wilson's overview of this, but I think after going to several meetings with the oversight boards for Heathrow, I think the big issue that overlaps all of these issues is trust. And there's been so many broken promises of things which were supposed to happen, don't happen, half happen. People debate whether it was ever going to happen. I think the emphasis that we really need to put on the airport and pass all the way through to central government is we need this to be in writing. All promises need to be very clear. They need to be backed up by independent enforcement, and an ombudsman is pretty much the basic point where the whole of the aviation committee of RBWM agreed on. We just don't believe promises get delivered. So we want this to be put into our policy and made as part of the way that we approach the airport or any other operator that comes forward, because at the moment there's two other people wanting to build runway 3. But it moves beyond runway 3. This is hundreds of millions, if not tens of billions, even possibly hundreds of billions of pounds of investment that are coming forward. The airport will be changed massively in the next 10 to 15 years. It's not runway 3, it's Terminal 5B. Terminal 1, 2 and 3 will be rapidly changed. And then you've got on top of that things like drones, you've got environmental access, you've got various other issues. This is going to be a huge national and local issue. So we need to be prepared. We need to understand where we're coming from. And officers, councillors and residents need something firm from this council to see where we stand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Any other questions or comments of the Cabinet? Okay, I'd like to thank the work, Mark, you did with Richard Coe on this. It's a really good piece of work, really valuable. Can we all support it?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. We now have the draft Maidenhead Town Centre Shopfront Supplementary Planning document. I think we're going for a competition of long names for reports.
I think my next one may even beat that one. Oh, but maybe not. I'm very pleased to present this paper today, and it's looking at the draft Maidenhead Town Centre Shopfront SPD, and the recommendation is that we agreed to go for the formal public consultation on this document. So basically, what's the purpose here? Well, its main purpose is to provide design guidance for shopfronts in the Maidenhead Town Centre in order to enhance the visual appearance of the centre, preserve heritage, and also hopefully support economic vitality. In terms of scope, it would apply, of course, to new altered and refurbished shopfronts within the town centre, including signage and security features at a point in time where planning permission needs to be sought for the development that's being carried out, or indeed advertising consent in some circumstances. In terms of the main design principles, this document I think is really good in as much as it isn't too wordy. So I will try not to be too wordy now. It basically demonstrates exactly what it's talking about through lots of pictures of good, what is good design and what is poor design, which would be which we would try to resist. So it really emphasizes high quality and also context sensitive design. So really kind of responding to the architecture of the area. Talks about the materials and the special, like the detailing that really enhances that quality of that design. Gives clear guidance about the types of signage and what's appropriate and what's discouraged, particularly when it comes to internally illuminated signage on the conservation area part of the town centre. Also, importantly, it talks about the security measures and getting because sometimes it's important to understand what shops look like when they're closed up as well as when they're open for business. And also, very importantly, does have important guidance on accessibility and inclusivity, and making sure shop fronts and shops are accessible to all. Some of the design also talks about sustainability elements such as energy efficient lighting and lots of the importance of using sustainable materials, which is then consistent with our sustainability SPD as well. As I mentioned before, it's important that it considers the heritage aspects of the town centre. Obviously, Windsor is well known as and has a very strong conservation area, but Maidenhead town centre also parts of that fall within a conservation area. So it's important that the conservation value is maintained and not harmed or degraded through a poor design of shop fronts. So finally, just to say, it would be used. It would, when hopefully eventually adopted post consultation, it would form part of the or be a material consideration for planning decision making within the town centre, and I hope that it will add to the sort of placemaking aims that the borough local plan set out for specifically for Maidenhead town centre. There's very useful checklists throughout the document, so it will hopefully aid developers and also aid decision makers in making sure they have all the evidence in front of them. So in conclusion, I think this is a really great document. Will enhance decision making, and hope you can agree to the recommendation, and I'm happy to propose it, the one I set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Any comments or questions? No, that's great. Thank you, Adam, for piloting this through. Really good report. Can we agree that? Great, fantastic. And now finally, another one for you, I think, isn't it? The draft parking supplementary planning document regulation 13 public consultation. No,
and a regulation as well. This is another supplementary planning document. This may well be the final one that planning policy team work on before we start focusing on the emerging new local plan. That obviously will take up a lot of time. So I think this parking SPD is one that's long overdue, and I actually got to speak about it at length yesterday at Place Overview and Scrutiny. So some of my comments tonight, forgive me if you were there or listening in and now listening in again. I may repeat myself slightly, but please forgive me for that. I think we tried with this parking SPD to really engage from an early stage with the overview and scrutiny process, bringing an early scoping documents to them, and also with the public, working with more informal kind of surveys to understand their thoughts about parking within the Royal Borough. And what I would say is, ultimately the point of this document will be to provide planning guidance and provide new parking standards for all development which consists of for all development which requires some element of off-street parking, both residential and non-residential. So it's been quite a journey to get to this point, and if I'm honest, it hasn't been without its challenges. I'd say that these aren't straightforward documents to formulate. There's a lot of balancing that has to be done, trying to find standards which take account of the significant differences in accessibility at different parts of the borough. Also finding the right balance of parking standards for different sizes of property, meeting various and sometimes competing policy aims. And I sort of joked last night, and it fell flat, so I'm sure it'll fall flat now, that it's not surprising that these parking standards haven't been changed in over 20 years. No one has tried to actually do anything about them, but I'm keen to take on the challenge and address that. So I now feel this draft is ready for public consultation. I think it sets out a clear evidence-based framework for determining parking at the right level in new developments. It's not just a list of numbers, but a real strategic guide to balance accessibility, sustainability, and the real-world needs of residents, businesses, and visitors. I am really grateful for the hard work and also the responsiveness and adaptability of the planning policy team through the process of getting to this document this evening. As I said, it outlines parking standards for residential, commercial, mixed use development, considers quantitative evidence such as public transport accessibility, car ownership levels, and local character as well. It provides guidance on special areas of importance, such as the provision of disabled parking, of sufficient EV charging points, also big emphasis, and the use of car club spaces as well in larger developments to encourage modal shifts into more sustainable means of transport. I think it's really important that we move forward with this SVD. I think it's going to provide consistency and clarity for developers and planners by setting a transparent benchmark. It's reducing ambiguity whilst providing a reasonable basis for flexibility. So these aren't going to be hard and fast rules that have to be strictly adhered to, but can, in the right circumstances and with the right evidence, either be you can either go above or below those of standards in particular contexts. But the document is very clear in setting out the kind of evidence and what a developer would have to demonstrate to do that. As I said before, I think that the current standards are 21 years old, and they're clearly based on out-of-date assumptions. So it's far from optimal, the situation we have now, and I've seen it. I've seen it with difficulties in making determinations and sort of through no fault of decision makers. Some inconsistencies do crop out because there is no clear up-to-date guidance. Sustainability is a big part of this. It's aligning with parking provision, with public transport access, encouraging active travel. We're hoping in a sort of soft touch approach to reduce car dependency, promote greener lifestyles, and but at the same time ensure that existing streets and also, of course, the residents that live within them are not adversely impacted by overspill from new developments. It's also very important that this is a future-proof document. So there's a lot of provision about electric vehicles and also shared mobility, like car club schemes. And it also, in that respect, it does support our aims for a transition to a low carbon transport future. So just to conclude, I'd say it's more than just a technical document. It's going to be a planning tool that will empower better decision making. It will reflect priorities and meet our needs and prepare us for the future. It's not the end of the journey this evening. As I said, this would trigger a 6-week public consultation, which would take place in October and November, if agreed. And I very much look forward to seeing the comments that come back during that public consultation process, because we've got a good track record of really properly listening to those responses during the formation of a final adoption version of our SPD. So I certainly can commit to giving everything, all those comments, the appropriate consideration that they deserve. So I can commend this report to the Cabinet, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations as in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Any questions, Jeff?
Not really a question. I'd just like to add something that I'm very pleased with in the document. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think it goes back ever since I became a councillor, which is too long ago to remember. But the thing that I'm very, very pleased with in this document is it at last recognises that Maidenhead Town Centre isn't an absolutely 100% sustainable location in the same way that somewhere that London is, or Birmingham or Manchester. It does actually recognise that 1-bedroom flats should have half a parking space per dwelling as an absolute minimum standard. So that alone makes this document worthwhile to me, and I'm delighted that we've got 4 zones across the borough that actually recognise the different densities of housing and the different sorts of housing and the access to transport. It's a far more realistic document than we've ever had before. So I'm absolutely delighted with it. It's really, really good news. And we won't end up in crazy situations that I remember ages ago. There was when the pub on the corner of Grove Road car park got knocked down. The development there that was proposed by the developer had 53 parking spaces in it. And the district, I don't know what you call it, valuer, whoever, said, no, you have to get rid of those. And we end up with 5 spaces, which was ridiculous because it's a sustainable location. So we're out of that madness at last. That's really good news. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think developers think they treat us like London with its amazing underground service, bus service, everything. And although we've made improvements to the buses, it's not a London bus system, is it? It's not a sustainable town like London. So thank you very much, Adam. Yeah,
I'll just come back on that, and also very quickly should respond to some of the minutes from the Place ONS, which are hot off the press. I think it is a slightly strange situation to have an ONS meeting 24 hours before the Cabinet meeting, but I've committed to listening and reviewing their comments and recommendations. So we'll do that in a second. But just to pick up on Jeff's point, what's really important, and what we both have been emphasising throughout this process, is the importance of this being evidence-based. To credit of the team, they've really produced a brilliant evidence pack, which will go out with the main document for consultation, which explain all the different household trends in different areas, how car ownership changes with different sizes of dwelling in different areas. So it's really detailed, and it's from that the standards were refined to this point that we have now. So hopefully, as the public look at the document, they also look at some of the evidence that backs it up, and I think it's really important to do it in that manner. So in terms of the recommendations from last night, first of all, it was a really constructive meeting. I thought some really good questions, some challenging questions. Overall, though, positive. I think there was no sort of red flags, as it were, for the panel in terms of proceeding with the document. I I'd say there was a couple of points that they've made, and they're at the foot of the minutes. One thing we talked about last night was the fact that we have this zonal model which has 4 zones, and that's based on accessibility data from the Department for Transport. We discussed the potential that could change in the future, and how do we respond to that. I think on reflection and speaking with officers today about that point, I think we wouldn't want to be in a position where we were frequently trying to update the SPD itself too often, because that in itself would trigger a formal SPD making process and consultation. So for the sake of slight changes, we don't think that would be sensible. Having said that, and as I've alluded to before, we do have the new and emerging local plan will be coming forward in the next few years, and there'll be opportunities to build on this work and look at the policies relating to parking within that document, and to see if they can respond to this wealth of data, which and sort of emerging and dynamic data which is coming forward these days, and whether we can do something within that document to allow us to have more flexibility in that respect. So we're committed to looking at it. In terms of the recommendation in terms of reviewing, we are committed to reviewing it during the plan making process to strengthen it and make it more responsive. I think the other substantive point which was brought up was relating to visitor parking spaces on particularly large schemes where there are visitor parking spaces there, and they talked about the recommendation talks about strengthening the wording. But I think from listening to the debate and the questions last night, I think the main sort of gripe or issue was the fact that sometimes you have visitor spaces, they should be designated, but they're not clearly marked out. So I have spoken to officers, and they are happy to add a small update or amendments just to the document related to the section relating on visitor parking, to make it clear that where there is designated visitor parking, it should be correctly marked out. I think that's paragraph 4.23. I was looking at it before. So we might need to slightly amend the recommendation if colleagues agree to that and are happy with that sort of minor amendment, just to allow us to put that in before we go to consultation. I think it was Councillor Taylor who brought that up, and I think it was a valid point and something we can easily respond to.
Excellent, and really good listening to scrutiny. I think it shows a really good relationship between the Cabinet and the scrutiny working together. So, Mark, I think you had a comment.
Yes, thank you, Simon. It's good to see sort of cycling being factored into this, and cycle sort of storage provision being covered. It would obviously be good if we had better support for sort of like wider cycling across the borough. And I would certainly welcome in other planning documents, more focus and more encouragement for the creation of segregated routes, especially for sort of like school journeys, errands, and short commutes. The report does sort of note that a lot of residents still rely on private vehicles for commuting and errands, and it would be really good to create those segregated routes. Safety is pretty much the main barrier as to why those that could cycle don't. So would sort of encourage us to take opportunities when they arise to dial those into plans. But otherwise, no, very good progress, and good to update it. While I'm on, can I just also apologise to Councillor Price for skipping her questions on the QAR, and that I will send her an email in response.
Fantastic. Okay, so with that small amendment that Adam proposed, are we happy to accept the paper?
Agreed.
That's agreed. Excellent. I think that is the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Really